When I was a young man, I had a condition, an unexplainable issue with my mind, a deep-seated hatred which couldn't be stopped, an anger which caused me to act out and be unkind to people around me, a hatred which I would see in the morning till the nights when I closed my eyes. Now you might be asking, what could be so bad that you hated it that much as a child? Was it inequality? Capitalism? Church on Sundays? My third grade science teacher? No, my hatred was towards something much more productive, a little indie game called Enter the Gungeon. Since the first time I saw it, I hated this game. The music, the graphics, all of it was the target of my irrational hatred. I lost friends over my grudge, I cut off family members, and I even got into fights over it. And when the game got more praise, my hatred got even more intense. It was a disaster. I had interventions, but nothing was working because I was a lost cause. But then something strange happened. I moved on, and I never thought about Gungeon again. That was until 3 days ago when I finally decided to purchase the dreaded game for $2. And after multiple days of playing through it, I can sufficiently say, Enter the Gungeon is a great game. Enter the Gungeon perfectly scratches that itch I've been having for twitchy gunplay and bullet hell spectacle. With beautiful pixel art and driving tunes, this game is the drug of the name of one more run before I go to bed. I almost failed my finals for this class, primarily because I have poor impulse control, but secondly because it's just so damn good. This game is so cinematic. You'll throw a table over at the last minute for cover, you'll be fighting a giant horde of bullets, or you'll be dodging massive explosions all around you. This game plays like a John Woo film. I know everybody's praised the dodge roll as a perfect difficulty crutch and an all-around fun ability, but I just have to stress how much this one addition helps improve the game. You're always in the driver's seat, and you're rarely forced to hug cover because you can just avoid damage anywhere if you're skilled enough. Along with that, this game has a ton of personalities. The humor's on point, the guns and the items are all extremely interesting and usually come with a fun gimmick. The items are really my favorite. I don't know what most of them do, but I always love finding more of them. This game is fantastic. Enter the Gungeon has to be my third pick for the best game of 2013, right behind Hot Wheels Beat That and just above Zoop. I've been fully absorbed by this game, and I've basically spent any free time I have theory crafting or watching videos about it. I haven't been this engrossed by another roguelike since Spelunky 2. But before that, there was another game. Now, when I said my hatred of this game was unexplainable and irrational, well, I was only lying about one of those parts. It was an irrational hatred, but it wasn't for no reason. When I was a kid, I was absolutely convinced that Enter the Gungeon was stealing attention away from my favorite roguelike at the time, Nuclear Throne. Which, if you look at both these games, that conclusion makes a lot of sense because they both have similar gameplay styles and a large arsenal of weapons to use. Now, my hatred of this game was a little bit exaggerated, but I did actually boycott the game because I felt like it was stealing attention from Nuclear Throne. What can I say? I was a dumbass kid, and I was convinced that Gungeon had what my favorite game deserved. I thought about this story again recently because obviously I picked up Enter the Gungeon recently, and I saw Nuclear Throne got a new update, which in turn filled my recommendation feed with a lot of people giving Nuclear Throne its flowers. Now, this isn't going to be a video of me saying that one game's better than the other or you should only play one, because that's not what this video is about. I already talked about Gungeon and why I love it so much, but playing Gungeon did make me realize certain gameplay elements I preferred in Nuclear Throne, and in turn, playing Nuclear Throne again made me realize that there's some mechanics in Gungeon that I liked better. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my two favorite roguelikes. The first thing you need to know about Nuclear Throne is this is an old game. This game is 10 years old, which means that I can legally vote in the Congo, and that also means that 5 years ago, it was old enough to be married in Saudi Arabia, though you probably wouldn't have known that without me telling you. The fact about the game being old, not the marriage thing. Nuclear Thrones doesn't show its age in a lot of places, and that's because the gameplay is timeless. Throne has a very basic gameplay loop of fight the boss, loop, get more guns, get some more upgrades, fight the final boss, win the game, or you could just loop infinitely if you want. Despite the simple gameplay loop, the reason this game has stayed in my head for all these years is because it's just so damn fun. You have a wide variety of characters to pick from, which all have their own unique abilities, and they also have their own special mutations which radically change the way you play. You can have an entire army help you clear out levels, you can play eyes and make every boss your bitch, you could also never die, but most importantly, fish can roll. With that simple explanation of the gameplay, something that I found very surprising comparing both these games together was that the massive arsenal which everybody totes as such a great feature in Gungeon wasn't something I actually really liked. I don't like how you only find guns from chests or shops or after fighting bosses because it made finding and testing out new guns a pain. A lot of times I got stuck with garbage or I only found gimmicky guns which weren't really fun to use. This is an issue in a lot of different roguelikes with large item pools. For example, in Isaac you can just get extremely unlucky and never find anything good, but you could avoid the issue by playing runs out or trying to just prioritize getting good loot. Another issue I had was that when I got a lot of guns, I only really used 2 or 3 of them to clear rooms or fight bosses because those were the fun guns to use. For every run you get a god tier gun, sometimes you just get stuck with the blunderbuss, and nobody wants to use that shit. Now, I want to preface this with the fact that everything in this video is going to be an opinion, but I want to particularly say it here because this is really just my opinion. Sometimes you gotta remind people that this is an opinion. I don't think that this is a bad way to design weapon progression. I just prefer Nuclear Throne's approach where you get weapons from anywhere all the time and most of them are viable. Honestly, looking at the way that both these games market themselves, I'd assume that Gungeon would use the Nuclear Throne approach of giving out weapons like as a dead drop in Chicago so you could use the massive weapon list. In Nuclear Thrones, if you find a double minigun and you're running out of ammo, it's perfectly sane to pick up an auto shotty because they're both just as good, and if you don't want the auto shotty, then there's about 50 other guns in the level you could pick up instead. I prefer the way that Nuclear Throne has a small array of guns, but they're all viable. You do have some extremely strong guns in this game, but they won't be as useful unless you tailor your build around it. For example, if you found the Super Plasma Cannon in Gungeon, that'd basically be a win button, but it's gonna be totally useless if you don't have trigger fingers or back muscles in this game. Another thing which is totally a personal preference thing, I can't see anybody else enjoying this as much as I do, but I enjoy how quickly you die in Nuclear Throne. Sometimes the game will say fuck it and eat your ass in 2 seconds, which is a good thing because it always keeps me on edge. It sets up this pretty interesting dynamic where you might get an insanely good run going where you're a demigod and kill everything on screen, but you know that one good hit will just kill you outright. Personally, I blame Splunky for my fondness of this type of game design. And don't get me wrong, Gungeon's harder than 1 DeFranco when you got transferred to the minors, but you aren't gonna die in 1 hit like you do in Nuclear Throne. Lastly, I prefer the endgame in Nuclear Thrones. You can become a force of nature in both games, but it's a different feeling when you kill a room full of 10 bullet kin, and then when you kill a room full of 100 enemies. In Gungeon, by the time you become a demigod, the game is usually over, but in Nuclear Throne, you can just loop infinitely if you have a strong enough weapon. A couple of things that I preferred in Gungeon compared to Nuclear Throne was the moment-to-moment gunplay. In Nuclear Throne, a lot of the times you're just running forward because it's not totally possible to dodge all the projectiles, plus your radiation is going to despawn quickly, so you gotta constantly move forward. Compared to Gungeon, you can take things slow and dodge every projectile. This has to be the biggest difference between these games. Gungeon is a bullet hell, and Nuclear Thrones is not really a bullet hell. I don't really know what you'd call it. You know, whatever Hotline Miami is, you'd probably call it. I think the best way to illustrate this difference is with the bosses. In Nuclear Thrones, there's 3, debatably 4 bullet hell type bosses, but as for the other bosses, you're either gonna hide behind cover or try to avoid their attacks entirely. A lot of times in Nuclear Throne, there's just so many projectiles on screen that dodging isn't possible. The game didn't really account for you dodging all these bullets, so you just have to hide or get through the level as quickly as possible. Compared to Gungeon, weaving through attacks is the entire point of the game. You can see it with the enemy and boss design. The bullets are usually pretty slow, they're extremely bright. The game wants you to dodge these things. These things were designed with you dodging it in mind. Both these games are deceptively different despite looking so similar. They focus on different aspects of their genre, but they're both extremely fun. If you haven't played either of these games, you're definitely missing out, and now would probably be the best time to try them out because Gungeon 2 has been announced and it's coming out eventually, and Nuclear Throne just got an update recently, so it's really the best time possible to give both these games a try. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta get back to my irrational hatred of Hollow Knight, because if you haven't noticed, it's not based off of quality, it's based off of popularity.